a few years ago, maybe a decade ago, buying a studio in Kilimani was almost unheard of. The duplexes were going for 25 million.
Oh,
exactly.
Jesus.
And it's slightly less, if I remember the sizing correctly, maybe 160 square meters.
How did you end up becoming a lawyer or studying law?
I can say that's my parents' degree for sure.
Keep it 100.
I think I transitioned at the cusp of the growth. Yeah. So that really, like, limitless options. That means with developments coming up, there are developers who want to sell off their property, so they're looking for people to help them sell off their property. And once you know how to sell a pen, you can sell a house.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. Really excited to do these things. And this particular day is another milestone for us. The guest for the podcast is somebody who we're really excited to have on the team, a new member of the team, Daisy Charlene. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, fantastic. So Daisy, you just joined us as head of business development. And as soon as you and I met the first time, we felt a synergy and a connection in terms of just the idea from a professional standpoint, right? There was something that I felt your energy, I felt your desire for just getting things done. It was very evident from the first time we met. So maybe we start with your background. Why don't you introduce yourself to the audience? Tell us who you are, where you come from, and all that.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. So my name is Daisy, as Mark has just mentioned. I'm the head of business development at Roots. So I have real estate experience of about 9 collective years, 3 years in legal and 6 years in active sales. The shift happened when I was working at Villa Care. Was a real estate developer as well, just here in Westlands.
So you were working as a legal person,
consultant. Then I shifted into head of business development.
Okay, so you are embedded into a developer.
Yes.
Okay.
Villa Care and Homes Universal is a developer in Nairobi. Yes.
Okay.
They also do in our locations, Lavington, Westlands, and the likes. Yes. So the shift happened when he needed someone to head a subsidiary that he had for the Kenya Homes Expo, which is one of his cohorts. So when I threw my hat in the ring, and that's how I got into sales.
Maybe take a step back, Kidogo. Like, first of all, why legal? How did you end up becoming a lawyer or studying law?
I can say that's my parents' degree for sure.
Keep it 100.
Yes. What I mean by that is I was always very outspoken. I participated in a lot of things that did with communication, debate in school and things like that. So my mom saw that, and because she was working with Mohammed Mugai Advocates, she was like, I think you would be a good fit.
What was she doing at Mohammed Mugai? He's a personal friend. We used to play soccer together.
Oh, really?
Yes, I've known Mohammed for a long time.
She was head of administration.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So she could see the legal associates at work, and she'd be like, my daughter
will kill this industry.
Yes. So that's how I got into law. That's how I did law. I did my law in Kwea. And then I went to Kethel, and then now I started my legal journey for a short 3 years.
Okay. So you didn't do the law firm thing, and then what was your first
experience?
Yeah.
I actually worked at NEMA as my first.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, yes. So
an attachment.
Yes.
Okay.
And tutelage when you're almost clearing PSL.
Yeah.
So we were doing a lot of environmental law, but now because we were going all over, being deployed all over the country, go to appear in mentions and do submissions in different courts, it gave me an experience, especially for civil litigation.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Around real estate, fundamentally. Because NEMA...
No. NEMA is more environmental.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Than you do need licenses in real estate for NEMA, but it's not the major...
It's not the main focus.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. Because I only know about NEMA when we
get those letters.
We get those letters from our neighbors who are all building stuff, right?
Yes.
We're surrounded by real estate development. It's hard to work in our offices. It's so loud and crazy. And we just get a letter. We've gotten at least 3 letters in the last 18 months for 3 different developments, and they all are NEMA. So for me, I always just connected NEMA to real estate.
It does control, of course, because they're changing the topography of the environment.
Yeah.
So they need They
Yeah.
need the letters from
And
the
Nema is under pressure in Nairobi.
especially our areas,
Yeah.
Westlands, Kileleshwa, Kilimani, because a lot of developments are coming up.
It's mad.
Yeah, it
so
is.
okay, so that was your first exposure into that, and then first job.
Yes. So first job, I was working at a law firm, but we were doing a lot of criminal litigation.
Okay.
So helping a common mwananchi when they have small issues like debt, theft, and things like that. And I worked there for about 2 years. Unfortunately, the person that I was working for had a bit of a mishap, and the law firm was closed, and that's how I went into Villa Care.
So, law firm to Villa Care, that's not a straight line. What's were you just looking for anything?
No, not
How
at
did that
all,
happen?
actually. Because I had experience, even when I was doing criminal litigation at the law firm that I was at, I had experience with basically employment laws of Kenya. And that's what Villa Care brought me on board for.
Got it.
So I was legal consultant for their HR department in
Got it.
accordance with employment laws of Kenya.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it. Interesting. So you come to do employee
Other
law
things
and so on
and,
and so forth.
Yeah.
And one day you're asked to. What was that evolution like? 'Cause-
Actually, he didn't even ask me. He just mentioned, and
Okay.
I'm the one who proposed.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I had been there for, I think, about 3 months then. And then the Kenya Homes Expo was coming up, the one that's usually at the end of the year. The October period, and he needed someone to help with one of the subsidiaries, as I'd mentioned, to help set up, to help drive traffic and things like that. So I said, I'll do it, and we'll give it a trial run. And I had always
What was the interest? Why? Why did you feel like?
I had always been interested in real estate. I feel
Okay.
like giving people a home is
Speaks to you?
exactly
Okay.
it's like a passion, like
Okay.
because it's not that I moved much growing up, but I always understood the value of having a home. Yeah, a
Interesting.
stable home especially.
Fantastic. Yeah.
So we did the Kenya Homes Expo, and it was very successful because normally whenever you showcase at the Kenya Homes Expo, people don't sell. It's there mostly for networking and
It's an
lead
industry thing.
generation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
But I sold at the Kenya Homes Expo. We were selling furniture then, and it was worth about 2 million Kenya shillings.
You're selling furniture.
Yes.
Okay, so you're not selling property.
So no, not property.
Okay.
So the subsidiary was Kenya Interiors,
Okay. Okay.
which is still under Villa Care, who's a
Right.
developer. So he had
So-
different segments to try and capture the market as a whole.
Cool.
So if you come to me as a client, I give you the home, and I can also furnish it for you. I can also do interior design for you. So the one that I was
was end to
heading,
end, yeah.
exactly, the one that I was heading was Kenya Interiors. So Kenya Interiors, we were trying to collaborate with suppliers of furniture. We were at that time, I think we were collaborating with Odds and Ends, and we were like, we did a whole setup so that you see how a living room would look like, how a bedroom would look like, to just
Right,
give you an idea
right.
of what we would do. As we were not showcasing to sell the furniture, we were showcasing to sell the service.
Right.
But my client came, had a conversation with me, and he's like, I'll take it all.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And
So
you're
he
like,
took the whole the whole setup. The next day we were just seated in our seats.
okay, you sold furniture.
Yes.
But now the
Now
move
the
to
real
now,
estate,
yeah.
yes.
What was that?
So when I went back to him, he was like, Daisy, I was very impressed by the service that you were giving my
Yeah,
clients, because
yeah.
the clients overall in the Kenya Homes Expo, we became number 2 as the best booth, with the best service, with the best setup, with the best everything.
Got it.
So would you mind coming now to the sales side of actually helping my clients run through the process of acquisition? I was like, yeah, well, I would not
He
mind
saw something
that.
that-
Yes, he saw something.
Yeah. And
yes.
then he
So-
pulled you in this direction.
Exactly, yeah.
Fantastic.
So that's how now I started selling real estate officially.
Okay.
A
How did you
house officially.
How did you sell to your mom the idea that this degree of yours, it's no longer...
I can say she only got on board the past, when I started working at Val, is when she truly got on board on the idea. Yeah.
Interesting,
Because
yeah.
at Val, we did so much more than I did at Villa Care, and she could see.
Yeah.
So yeah, she only got on board once I started
Cool.
working at Val.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. So it's been 9 years now from
Yes.
that expo.
Inception. No,
No.
6 years from that expo.
6 years from that expo.
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. So, in that 6 years, what has it felt like? Has it felt like, how in a word, how would you describe it?
Exponential.
Okay.
Exponential growth. I can say the person that I was selling my first house at Villa Care
Right.
and the person that I am right now,
Different person.
completely different person. Because
Right.
as much as I am helping a client find what they're looking for. I'm also changing how I am in terms of my customer customer service, my delivery, and things like that.
Awesome. And so Exponential also suggests that the industry is also
Exactly.
moving in that direction. Otherwise, you can't be in a dying industry and
If I end up growing,
industry.
exactly.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. How has the market evolved? The real estate market evolved in your experience over the last 6 years or 9 years? How would you characterize it?
Wow.
Or let me. What's the biggest shift you've seen in the industry?
Development boom.
Okay.
What I mean by that is people have a lot more choice in terms of investment options. If you want to buy a property in a few years ago, maybe a decade ago, buying a studio in Kilimani was almost unheard of.
Right.
But now, because they were mostly popular with Thika roadsides, Mombasa roadsides, and things like that. But now you can easily get a studio just a stone throw away from us.
Yeah.
That means that your investment options are much more open. That means that if you not necessarily want to buy to live in the city, you can still buy to invest.
Right. Yeah. And, sometimes I drive around the city and I pass certain corridors that just 3 years ago looked very different.
Exactly.
There's this on Ngong Road between, I guess, Adams and I would say that roundabout or that, Coptic church.
Coptic, yes.
That whole area looks like a different city.
It does.
Completely.
It does.
It's mad. And I remember I used to run there all the time. That was one of my running routes on weekends. And I hadn't done it for maybe 6 months or maybe a year. And I was driving there and I was like, am I lost? What the hell is happening?
But now you have the advantage of the road that's fully made and you have a running path.
Yeah. I mean, Nairobi is just on a tear real estate wise. So that probably helped in terms of making the transition, getting your parents buy-in, your mom's buy-in.
That's actually true because I think I transitioned at the cusp of the growth. Yeah. So that really like limitless options. That means with developments coming up, there are developers who want to sell off their property, so they're looking for people to help them sell off their property. Right. And once you know how to sell a pen, you can sell a house.
Yeah. And, truth be told, our real estate market also has issues, right? There have been all kinds of problems, unmet expectations, disappointments, and so on and so forth. So I feel a sense of anxiety when I see all that happening. But at the same time, I guess, what would you say to that? How would you characterize for somebody who's coming from that point of view, how things are different now, if at all, in regards to reliability and all that, just market conditions? What has changed?
Okay, so Kenya has opened up its borders a lot. So that means we have a lot of foreign investors coming into Kenya for different reasons. And one of the biggest growth spurs is through real estate because investors know that if I invest in Nairobi, I probably have a rental income because a lot of foreigners are coming into the city. So the market is changing, yes, of course, because we need to meet the demand that's currently there. So that means that there's supply. But now the thing is that there's almost oversupply because a lot of people are building and we don't have enough
buyers.
Exactly. In the
who
market.
There are people, there's enough population.
Yes.
Right?
What I mean by buyers who meet your criteria.
Okay.
So for example, if you're building in, a very good example is a project in Lavington called Grand Premier. The duplexes are going for 25 million.
Oh.
Exactly.
Jesus.
And it's slightly less, if I remember the sizing correctly, maybe 160 square meters. So, when you think about 25 million and you spending it on 160 square meter home, that's different from someone who's thinking a maisonette on Kiambu Road or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, or Syokimau or Kitengela.
And so, I guess my observation also of the industry, I've been back in Kenya since 2018, is the quantity and even quality, right? And options, right? And so while there's at 25 million, there's also other options within, right? So the market is trying to kind of figure itself out.
Actually,
So in terms of just reliability of product, dependability of product, which is part of having options is also part of that. How would you characterize the quality and quantity and options today than 7-8 years ago? Yeah.
People are doing better because there's now competition to build. That means that a few years ago, when I was actually at Val, Chinese were almost our biggest competitors because they were fast and their quality was not so good, but they could guarantee you a project within the time frame that they've said. Okay. But now Chinese are building better, building faster and better quality. So that means that the market is trying to level itself.
Yes.
If you're reliable in terms of speed, if you're reliable in terms of quality, if you're
Track
reliable
record,
exactly in terms of even location, people will go and buy your product compared to a few years ago where it was just a select few developers who had captured that market.
Yeah, it was a seller's market at the time. Now it's more moving towards a buyer's market right now, which is fantastic, right? So options for investors and so on and so forth.
Because now you're able to weigh your options. You're not just limited to a few developments. Now you can. It cuts across the board.
It's actually really cool. Yeah. It used to be an oligopoly. Now it's an open market.
It is.
It's quite exciting.
Yeah.
Question: if you could fix one major issue, what would it be in the real estate space?
So
and maybe you wouldn't fix it because
I would try.
No, if you don't fix it, if you fix it for yourself, then you're the only one offering it.
Yeah.
But what is that? What is the issue?
So I've mentioned that there's a boom in developments. That means there are many developers and supply, almost an oversupply. So what people are trying to do is you have to get a return on your investment. If you built, you'd like to sell off your whole project. So that means that they're trying their best to sell off the project without understanding the client need and their wants. So the one thing that I would try to change and change the narrative on is the customer experience. When you're buying a home, most of the developers make it so technical and structural. You've discussed, you want this home, choose it, sign an offer letter, pay the deposit, sale agreement.
It's just a transaction.
It's very transactional.
Yeah.
So our client feels like almost coerced to buy a unit.
There's a sense of that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Pressure.
Exactly. To buy a unit, maybe because of the hype of the location and things like that.
Yeah.
But what I've learned over the years is that people, especially when buying a home, not even just for investment, but for truly living, want to feel like you understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
So I would
it's a big commitment.
It is. I mean, you spending even just spending 10 million Kenya shillings is a lot of money, and you want to ensure that you're getting the best value for your money.
Right.
So the customer experience is one thing that I would truly try and change the narrative.
That's what we're trying to do.
Yes.
So that's the
we are trying to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fantastic. So opportunities and gaps. So if you what are the untapped opportunities, right, in the landscape?
Okay. Now that Kenya has seen, or in general, the government is seeing that there's an influx in developments. That means people have options. The only gap is that people feel like it's still unattainable for them.
Unaffordable.
Yes. So that means that if I want to buy a home, it's something that I have to plan 5 years or 10 years in advance.
Right.
So what the government has done is that now we do have mortgage solutions that are much, much more cheaper than standard bank solutions, mortgage solutions, at lower interest rates of as low as 9.5%. And you have a longer repayment period. So that means that you're not overstretching yourself to service this financing option. So that's one opportunity that we can look into real estate, or rather buyers can look into real estate. Another opportunity is that because people have built a lot and you have many options, you have a lot more on your plate.
Yes, negotiating power.
Exactly.
You have options.
Exactly. So you don't feel like someone is forcing you to take this just because they're the only people offering a certain kind of development, a certain kind of amenity and things like that.
Right.
And then especially for people who are looking to buy to invest, in high-end locations, there's a lot you can do. If you have the financial capabilities, there's a lot you can do in those areas.
Let's talk about this untapped opportunity on the financing side. This is very exciting for me because, spent many years in the States and, buying a home is kind of what do you call it, a rite of passage, right? Maybe not so much nowadays because the economy is kind of upside down. But, between 2000 and 2010, before the financial crisis and all that, which was driven by mortgage crisis, buying a home was everybody pretty much did it. If you are, a Port Mobile, or if you're even just, it was the goal. And this was enabled by mortgage financing, 30-year mortgage loans, so the average person could actually afford a home. And it was just everywhere.
Yeah.
And the craziest thing is when I moved back and I kind of was just understanding the market, there was a statistic that said there were only 20,000, was it 20,000 or 2,000? Some crazy number of mortgages in Kenya. Like there's 50 million people in the country, maybe at least 10% of those or more could be in the market, right? But there was no mechanism. There was no financial enablement. There was no vehicle to allow somebody to actually take a mortgage, finance a home over a period of time where they could afford close to what they would be paying for rent. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it was shocking to me. 20,000 people. I was like, my goodness, that's a huge gap. That's a huge hole in the economy. And I was like, okay, how do you actually transition to become a homeowner, a society of homeowners? And in the States, they had these they're almost like parastatals, entities that were set up to enable that process to happen, right? Where they created these institutions where banks could provide loans to, and then they would buy those loans off the book of the banks and so on, of the consumer banks, right? And then it went to Wall Street, and Wall Street did its thing with it, and they just blew the thing up, right? But that was a missing piece. This entity that could bring liquidity into the space so that banks could lend to people at affordable rates, and then this entity could buy those loans off their books because banks can't. That's their business model wouldn't work for those long-term loans. So it's a public sector thing that needs to be done, and that's how home ownership happens around the world.
Yeah, but in Kenya, one of the reasons why mortgages were low a few years ago, like the numbers are low, is because we still had this taboo around loans. Okay, so this is what drove people's mindset. I'd rather save for 10 years and buy a home than get a loan, because in our mindset, getting a loan means that down the line someone can own your property.
Right, you're just not sure about it. There was uncertainty about that. Like, this is somebody else's money. How? Like, there was no culture. There was no it just wasn't a thing.
Exactly. So because of this is what drove market insight, because only a handful of people were educated about the benefits of getting a proper mortgage and how secure it is for you and for your future and things like that, and how instantaneous it is compared to saving
for 10 years.
Exactly. So now that as I mentioned, Kenya has opened up its borders, that means that there are a lot of foreign people coming to the country. That means that they're bringing their ideas, and we're adapting much quicker. That means that we are opening up our minds to different ways of ownership, whether cars, whether homes, whether land, whether whatever. So we are not still very traditional.
In
yes,
the ways,
exactly.
Our financial markets are evolving.
Exactly.
And now we have an institution that's set up to actually bridge that gap, which is super exciting. And the crazy thing is most people don't know about it.
They don't.
And this institution was set up, I think, in 2019, because I remember when I was starting to investigate or research, why is there such a big gap, and came across this institution. It had just been set up, but it was almost like a secret. Nobody knew about it. And I was like, wow, this thing is actually... And so I've seen it evolve over time, and now they're starting to do more marketing, and they're starting to kind of push that agenda and so on and so forth. We actually had a webinar with them, I think it was in December, Kenya Mortgage Refinance Corporation. And this is a game changer.
It is.
It is a game changer.
It is.
Right? Because now folks have access to up to 10.5 million Kenya shillings in financing, at low rates up to 9%, 20, 25-year terms.
Exactly.
So you can afford a home.
You can.
And people don't know about this. And I'm really excited about the opportunity for Kenyans anywhere in the world to tap into this. The story about... So this is affordable home ownership fundamentally, right?
It is, because it's still within that bracket, but someone who's
I mean, as far as the loan.
Yes, as far as the
facility is affordable. That's what I'm trying to say. Because people associate affordable housing
with 2
certain
million,
types
3 million garal.
Right? But this is affordable. Home ownership is here.
It is.
Right?
It is affordable in terms of the financial structure because your repayment period is longer, the interest rate is lower.
Yeah.
And you
compared to the 18%, which is
21% up to 21%.
right. The banks
right
are
now, which is almost triple.
It's not affordable.
It's not at all.
It is not advisable and affordable. Right?
So you see, even that's also informed people taking mortgages because they're like, wow, this is such an expensive financing solution.
Right.
So
right.
This coming into play is really trying to level the playing field because I mean shelter is a very common human need.
Yeah, I think this to me is it if you structurally it changes what it changes a lot about where even a society can go.
Where we are going, exactly.
Because if people own homes, they make different decisions.
Exactly.
They're more invested. It's a game changer.
Because now your mind is not on your basic need.
Yeah.
That means that whenever you
have a shelter, you're not
thinking
not a
about
nomad.
rent. You're not thinking about rent because but I do like the direction Kenya is going in terms of real estate and in terms of the growth that we've had because now we are making people, or rather we are opening up people, we're giving them more options in terms of the way they settle their minds and in terms of the way they invest.
Yeah.
Because I mean, once you've sorted out the issue of a home, everything else just falls into place.
Hopefully, not always, but at least you've got that big foundation sorted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Very cool. So we can move from this 20,000 historical figure mortgage and let's get to 2 million.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
People who actually own their own homes.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, we have the talent in Nairobi and Kenya.
Yeah.
Especially working talent is massive.
Right.
That means that people who are able to, who've learned, who've gone to school, have degrees, have masters, have PhDs, earn good salaries, are able to afford this solution.
Yeah. This is really cool. Very exciting. Yeah. Okay. You joined Roots Africa. You've worked at big companies and in real estate, and you saw what we were doing, and you were like, what is it that caught your eye? Yeah, why Roots Africa?
Okay. So my experience has extensively been working with set developers, meaning that I'm tied to their product. I'm tied to offering solutions to my clients.
Your universe is limited.
Exactly. Of what I have. But now, I was excited to join Roots because now we are a listings platform. That means that we're onboarding everyone. And of course, once we vet them and things like that. But that means that my portfolio is growing and I'm able to offer my clientele much more options than I could a few years ago, or things like that, or if I'm working for a developer.
Right. So
Roots, I like the idea that Roots is giving people more choice, and I'm able to work with my client. Because if you came to me a few years ago and you asked me for a 2-bedroom for 10 million, I couldn't offer you anything because I had nothing in my portfolio for that.
Right.
But now Roots, because we're working with different people, I have so much more to give you. I have different options, different locations and things like that. Aside from that, it's basically your vision for helping diaspora investors settle into Nairobi and Kenya at large, because a lot of people don't have people who walk with them the journey of trying to buy real estate in Kenya and Nairobi, because you word of mouth, family, you Google a real estate company, it gives you an agent that is trying to sell you the same.
It's just a transaction.
Exactly.
As far as they're concerned, they see diaspora in their eyes that
exactly.
Bing, 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 bing.
But now Roots, we are fair play because we are more customer oriented, and as I mentioned, that is my passion.
Yeah.
I'm more client oriented. I want to give the client
meet them, help them achieve their goals.
Exactly. Meet them where they are, what they want.
Right.
Not try to force them into a narrative. And that is what Roots is offering. So the idea of coming and joining Roots was almost a no-brainer. From, as you mentioned, the first time we met, you told me about what you're trying to do, how you're trying to do it, and I was like, I can get by that.
Yeah. Very excited. And also, because I always say, trust is our currency. We're not selling you the first home. We want you to come to us for the second and third home. That's what we want you to come back for. And the way, having been in the diaspora and just experienced that challenge of lack of market visibility, and man, it's just hard. It's a very personal problem, and I understand it firsthand.
Yeah.
And so the customer is our business model, right? That is, as opposed to the property, right? It is, the customer is our business model, and building infrastructure end to end from open listings platform with vetted developers and, providing that legal support, providing a community for them to actually learn from each other. And to me, man, and then now this mortgage.
Personal.
It is personal. It's personal. And then the other thing too is this idea of people being scammed and all these short-term, fly by night, players. It's just so, man.
At the end of the day, people don't buy your product; they buy your services. Even a developer will tell you that they buy your services. The reason why product A can be best selling is because of the way they handle the client.
Yep.
Because by
it's
the time,
word of mouth.
Exactly. By the time making you understand the value of what I'm giving you, and you giving me your millions, especially tens of millions, you've really, really connected. We've really connected on different levels. And it's not just the space. It's even the home. It's even the journey. We even become friends after the fact. So that's what we're trying to foster.
Very exciting. Very exciting. I feel like we're at the dawn of a... We're on a rocket ship.
I'm at another cusp.
Yeah.
I'm at another cusp.
This is the bottom. We're kind of, it's up and to the right. Exactly. But anyway, this is fantastic. It's great kind of introducing you to our audience, and can't wait to see the work we do together to serve people, to help them achieve their goals. Any parting shots to the audience before we wrap it up?
Yes. So far it's been quite interesting learning and understanding what we're trying to do. And this has given me much, much more confidence. I've been here for about 2 weeks now, but watch out for more.
Yeah, plus you're working with the engineers, software engineers, and product. And
exactly.
Which is a very different experience.
Actually, fun fact, a few years ago, I wanted to get into business development in tech. So this is right up my alley.
Now you're in business development in tech, in real estate. So all those dots are
I'm ticking those boxes for sure. So yeah.
Fantastic. Well, it's great to have you and great to host you. I'll just say a couple of things for those who I wanted to share with you. Our community is live. We opened our community in January to support diaspora investors who want a space and a place where they can commiserate with others, learn from each other, and we can support that process of empowering you with unique insights. We do market analyst reports. We do exclusive events for our community members. It's hosted on Slack. And the idea here behind this community is where people can actually learn to become better investors. Become better investors through being in an environment with others who are sharing information, going through experiences, being furnished with the right knowledge and information, and to achieve your real estate goals. So 2 things: become a better investor and achieve your real estate goals. That's the purpose of our community. It's hosted on Slack. You can go to our website, rootsafrica.co, and there's a top link. You'll see community. Click on that and register to join. So we'll see you online and we'll see you around, and we can't wait to see you when you're in Nairobi. Look us up. We're in Westlands at Launchpad Co-working Spaces, which is where our offices are. So if you're ever in town, just drop by, say hi, and we look forward to meeting you. Have a good one.